NFL draft rankings continue on Peacock and Williamson. Matt Williamson's top offensive lineman. We got to break this group up. A stud class in 2024 of offensive tackles and interior offensive linemen. How are they ranked according to my esteemed co-host, Matt Williamson? Coming at you right now.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We love all the everydayers out there, and we love it when you subscribe on YouTube. And, of course, you can find us everywhere you find your favorite podcast. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And we're going to get started with the offensive linemen. I love this class. It's top heavy, Matt. It is deep. There's interior guys. There's tackles. There's centers, guards. There's combo guard centers. There's combo tackle guard centers. There's five. There's guys that can start at 5 positions in the NFL. Such a good class. Let's start with the tackles, though, and start at the top. How do you see this class of offensive tackles in 2024, Matt?
Yeah, and my hunch is, I don't mean to speak for you, but just knowing the Niners team needs, I bet this is a position you've dug into the heaviest, and it is for me too. Steelers need a center, Steelers need a tackle, so I've been hitting these guys hard,
And especially where the Steelers and 49ers are in the draft.
Yeah.
20, there's a good chance you get not the top guy, but a rock solid guy, depending on if you want them all or if you want someone that's got, a dancing bear type of feet. You need a left tackle, need a right tackle, need a guard, need a center. You can find all those things at 20. At 31, I've had to just look at all of them because I think the 49ers might pick more of the leftovers there, and you might not get a chance to choose. So you get the best guy at 31, then maybe you double dip later in the draft at the position that you didn't get early in the draft. If the 49ers are indeed going heavy in the offensive line. Seems like they might be. Seems like the Steelers might be. I'm doing mock drafts, and a little look ahead. I think we have a dueling mock draft coming here on Peacock Williamson very soon. And every time I go through mock draft scenarios, Matt, it's not just most teams. I think every single team in the NFL could draft one of these guys, maybe even in the first round. It's pretty phenomenal.
It's the best tackle class I can remember, to be honest with you. I mean, it's a rarity that the college ranks gives you this first round capable guys, all shapes and sizes, rights, left, et cetera, and Mike Tomlin has a Tomlinism that if they give you red paint, you paint the barn red. And I just say, take that gift and grab the tackle at 20. I keep referring to Steelers. I mean, they traded up for Broderick Jones. I don't know where Broderick Jones even fit in this mix. You don't have to trade up to get the Broderick Jones this year. I mean, you can get someone pretty equal. So paint the barn red.
There's going to be a lot of red paint in the draft class. Golden, navy and gold. What's the official colors of Notre Dame? Because everyone's got Joe Alt as their offensive tackle one. Is he your top guy this year?
He is, but not a slam dunk. And basically, this is kind of a styles makes fight thing, though. I mean, Alt, everyone knows he was groomed for this since he could crawl. I mean, he's only 21. He's 6'9". He's unbelievably flexible and limber. Tight end that grew into his paws and is a really, really good player at a great, school. But I have J.C. Latham right next to him, to be honest with you. And I think it just depends if you like chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, or Rocky Road. I mean, Nate Tice describes, and I think this is hilarious, he describes J.C. Latham as a globe with legs. I mean, he is just a total right tackle masher. And I think they're neck and neck, to be honest with you.
J.C. Latham has gotten so much late run, and I think there was some there's actually body bias with a lot of the tackles in this class, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of different shapes and sizes, and there's going to be something for everybody. And J.C. Latham probably looked like someone that he's not for everybody. And the more you dig into J.C. Latham and watch him play, you realize, man, even though he's square, he's got good feet. And he played right tackle in college, but he could probably play left tackle in the NFL, which is going to be huge. It might be the thing that, makes teams say, oh, you know what? Well, if we're going to go with this big, beastly people mover sort of an offensive tackle, Latham's got longer arms and maybe could play better on the left side than someone like Talise Fuaga. And that might be the thing that puts him ahead. And right now, I'd probably bet on J.C. Latham being the second or third tackle off the board instead of the fourth, fifth, sixth, which is kind of where he was placed by a lot of people starting this process. And, the combine is a big, we've talked about this many times, Matt. I would, if I was only watching one position group at the combine, it would be offensive linemen. I think watching their testing, watching their numbers, you get the exact arm lengths for these guys. It's more important there than it is for, the guys at wide receiver running 4.21s. And so for that reason, I mean, Joe Alt, the tape is there. 6'8.5". He's almost 6'9". I mean, it's crazy how well he can move. 321 pounds. He wears 321 as well as anybody. 34 plus inch arms, big hands, ran 5.05 at that size, which is phenomenal. He had good agilities as well. So I think it's a slam dunk for Joe Alt. It's just too easy, and you plug him in. Left tackle all day long, blind side protector. He's not getting out of the top 7 picks. The question is, does somebody sneak in and draft him and maybe surprise the Tennessee Titans at pick 7 is my only question with Joe Alt.
That's like the chalkiest pick in every mock draft besides Caleb Williams.
And it can't be that easy. It can't happen that way.
It can't be that even. Right. So a couple notes I just want to throw out there is you mentioned the left-right thing, and that is important, but less important than when we were kids. You know what I mean? Like if you're the right tackle, you're still dealing with Bosa and Watt and Garrett and Crosby. So, I mean, it can't just have a big stiff over there. And back to Latham real quick. If the Chargers trade down a little bit, I bet Harbaugh will adore this guy. And not only can he be a left tackle, he might be Larry Allen if you put him at guard. Like just kill everybody.
Has Alabama had their pro day yet?
I'm uncertain about that.
I don't think they have.
Oh, no, Kool-Aid ran already. So they must have.
Oh,
yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
maybe he didn't do anything. I haven't been paying attention to pro days.
Okay, I want to see those J.C. Latham timing numbers because he didn't time at the combine. But one of the important things he did do at the combine was show up with 35-inch arm length. So your number
killer.
2 is J.C. Latham, Alabama tackle, 6'5 3/4, almost 6'6", 342 pounds. He is thick from his nose to his ankles. I mean, he is so thick. 11-inch hands, just huge hands, long arms. And he's got pretty good feet. If you need right tackle, you just plug him in there because that's where he played at Alabama most recently. But a lot of these guys played on both sides in college, played inside at some point, as they were being groomed. And I think he could play left tackle in the NFL as well. I want to see those. I'm going to look those up, though, in a second, find out what his exact testing numbers were at the pro day, because that's pretty important for J.C. Latham because he needs to prove that to teams. And I could see him be the second and maybe at worst the third, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly with J.C. Latham. So he's your number 2 tackle in this class. My question to you next, Matt, would be how close was tackle 3 to those top 2 guys?
Well, I don't want to overthink this one, and that's Fashanu from Penn State, because watching him, I thought he was going to come out a year ago, and frankly, he probably should have in a much weaker class. He would have been tackle 1. I think he goes ahead of Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones, Wright, a year ago. But he hasn't done anything lately. His worst game of the year was against Ohio State late in the season. He has small hands, like uncommonly small hands. But he is a pure left tackle, dancing bear, light on his feet. Unbelievable. And he's one of the youngest guys in the entire draft. I don't want to overthink this because everyone's buzz is so much better than his since they stopped playing football. So I'm just going with him. And he may end up being number 1 when it's all said and done.
Really quick here, the update on pro day numbers from J.C. Latham, there are none. So he opted not to run the combine or pro day. That is very curious.
He's probably not fast.
He wasn't going to run well. He's not going to run well. So you have to only trust the tape there. Other guys might check the box. I think in the end that actually might hurt J.C. Latham, although reports from Jordan Reed of ESPN on that J.C. Latham pro day was that he came in 6'6", 346 pounds, a couple pounds heavier than his combine. Only did positional drills, but according to Jordan Reed, looked terrific in those. Very nimble mover, explosive feet, easy power in his hands, but no times, which is interesting So teams are going to definitely have to trust the tape on J.C. Latham with his body type. It's going to be a battle. And Olu Fashano's kind of been the guy. Olu Fashano, your number 3 tackle, Matt, he was the number 1 guy like the whole time. And then Joe Walsh came out of nowhere. But I mean, prototype Olu Fashanu. Maybe it's kind of smallish hands, but I mean, he's got the arm length, he's got the feet, left tackle. I think those 3 guys have separated themselves. And if you want the left tackle and maybe you're a little worried about Latham, I could absolutely see Olu Fashanu being tackle number 2 in this class. After
I urge people to don't overthink it with Fashanu. He has a lot of good tape.
All right, we're doing top 5s and sleepers, but I think we've got more than 5 tackles to talk about here.
It's like 100
in this class with these guys. So we're going farther than Matt's written top 5s. We'll tell you we can see that next and get into guards and centers as well. Next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Game Time. It's not time to worry when you're buying tickets for your next big event. It should be time for excitement, and it should be a heck of a lot easier than it is sometimes right now to buy tickets to sports, music, comedy, theater events near you. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets to all of those events with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You see those seats, and you know what the view looks like before you buy. My favorite part, the all-in prices. You don't get that, when you're checking out, oh no, look at this crazy price that I had no idea was going to be there. And I thought my ticket prices were one thing. All-in prices at Game Time show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. Couple taps, they're right there on the app. You don't have to go fishing through your email to find those tickets when you do show up at your event. And by the way, those last-minute seats, Game Time has deals right to the start of the event and even an hour after an event starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So we've got Joe Alt, J.C. Latham, Olu Fashanu, 1, 2, 3 in the offensive tackle class. Who is number 4 and 5 to finish up your top 5, and who just missed your top 5, man?
I mean, the just missed list is bonkers. I mean, because every year that I've done this, the 6, the 7, the 8 would probably be in your top 5. I went with Talisi Fuaga from Oregon State. The only knock on him is he's a little bit stiff, and he's got a little bit shorter arms than you like. So I've heard some say guard. I think that's the real fallback plan. I think he's a right tackle all day long. He's 6'6". I mean, he's got a great, nasty playing demeanor too. I'm a big fan.
He's a big one that I'm having trouble figuring out because there's no player that's been more fun to watch on tape, I think, than Talisa Fuaga because of the way he plays. But 33 and 1/8 inch arms. Now, it's not sub 33, which makes you an insta guard. So teams are going to try him at tackle first, I think, versus some of these other guys that maybe just go straight to guard. But the tape is awesome. You do see a lack of arm length at times, especially you see him go up against Laiatu Latu, who's one of the best with his hands in this class. And you see times where the hand fighting, and Latu doesn't have long arms either out of UCLA, but he beat Fuaga a couple times with just hand usage, and you can see guys get into him a little bit, but I think he'll have to fail at tackle first. But he's a right tackle only probably for a lot of teams because he played on the right side, not the left side. So for that reason, I think you're right. He does. I've seen him top 10 in drafts, and I think guys that are watching on tape just love watching him, so they're putting him there. I don't think he's going to be one of the top couple of tackles off the board and go that high, top 10. I do think he's gone by the 20s, but he's a first rounder all day. But which team likes him? Which team probably wants more of a right tackle than a left tackle and sees him as a pure tackle, not a guard, is the team that Fuaga is going to end up going to.
I don't think he'll get past 20. I'll just throw that out there.
I 10 might be too high, but if he gets past 20, then there's another great prospect that a team like the Steelers, who is tackle needy and specifically right tackle needy, and just specifically for the Steelers, just because you know him so well, the fit's great because right tackle, plug and play, more ready to play than Broderick Jones was last year. But Broderick Jones has now had a year to get ready to play. Now you have 2 young tackles, one left side, one right side, and
Yep. So my number 5 guy is Troy Fatanu, who's the polar opposite. Like most of us thought he's super agile, great playing demeanor as well, tremendous tape on a great offense, but he's only 6'4", but his arms were 1.5 inches longer than Fuaga's. So I don't think he's Skoronski, where you just start him at guard and you're happy there from a year ago. But I think he'd be a tremendous guard that I'm starting out at tackle.
A tremendous center, potentially.
Maybe a tremendous center, yeah.
There's going to be big-time body bias here because he's a good tackle, and I think he could absolutely play tackle in the NFL. He's got longer arms than Fuaga does, and he is not only is he 6'4", in the program, he's actually like 6'3 3/4. So you just don't see any guys that tall, but it's just height, and it actually helps with leverage. Like, how important is height really if you're an offensive tackle?
Yeah.
It's the length, the arm length.
I'd rather the length, right?
And guys aren't getting into his chest because he's got big hands. He can move around really well. I would use him at tackle. I have a feeling the body bias is going to get him, and it's not only shortness, the way he's built too. Like his jersey's always riding up, showing. His
yeah.
My comp for him was: do you remember when Dallas Cowboys offensive lineman Joe Looney went out to practice wearing Zeke Elliott's jersey one time as a joke, showing off the abs, but his belly is sticking out? That's my comp for what
he's a little sloppy and right. He's so agile. He's great feet and he's nasty and really fundamentally sound. Yeah, I hear you.
The league, when we start talking about arm length too, and some people roll their eyes, like, come on, what are we talking about an inch on arm length? It's important. Like teams, some teams will not play you if you're not 6'5" with 34-inch arms at tackle, period. You are a guard all day long, every day.
He might be Rashawn Slater, though. I mean, who's kind of the same mold.
Right. Yeah, that's a good comp. Slater was a little taller, but had shorter arms.
Yep.
So the just missed, I know on here you have your sleeper as Troy Fautanu's teammate who was playing right tackle, Roger Rosengarten. 6'5", 308, ran really well, sub 5.0 in the 40-yard dash at the combine. Is a nice player in his own right. And I mean, I don't know where he even goes, but you can just keep going with this tackle class. There's so many guys that probably just missed your top 5, even though these guys are all going to be gone probably, by pick 20 in the draft.
Yeah. And when this article was due, Rosengarten was not showing up on 2-round mock drafts left and right like he is now. And it looks like that's where he's going to end up. He's a little more finessey than I love.
Yeah.
But Amarius Mims, and to a lesser degree, slightly lesser degree, Tyler Guyton, these dudes are rare bodies, athletes, especially Mims. I mean, no one carries 360 with vines for arms better than this guy. I mean, like, if you told me the Steelers could get him at 20, and I know he hasn't played much, I don't care. Sign me up.
Mims is ridiculous, and I like Mims more than Guyton. Guyton,
me too,
has the same height, 6'7", almost 6'8", but doesn't wear his weight as well, doesn't leverage as well, plays a little bit more upright, and I think he's not going to be for everybody, kind of lumbers at times. And while Amarius Mims is 340 pounds, I mean, he wears it insanely well. It's unbelievable. He moves really well. He's super raw, only started 8 games, but man, he can erase the right side the left side of a defensive line as right tackle. So he's raw. He might not play a lot early, but there's so many raw tools for him to work with Amarius Mims. I don't think he gets out of the first round, and it'll be interesting to see what team drafts him and what the plan is for development there, because he might be further along than you think for how much he's played. But his big problem I've seen is just obviously staying on the field. So injuries, got best ability is availability. He gets
hurt at the combine too. It's like, come on.
Yeah. Come on, man. Give me a reason to draft you. I want to draft you, but
so badly.
A reason. And he gets beat inside too much. Just like opens the door. He's trying to get out in his pass set, and guys come across his face and get inside on him. So that's something to look at with him. And he's a work in progress, but so much to work with. I like him better than Guyton. And Guyton's lumbers a little bit. He might not be a great fit for teams running a lot of the wide zone stuff.
100%. Like if you told me I could have Mims at 20, I'd say yes. If you told me I could get Guyton at 20, I'd be like, I'll go fish. Maybe if it goes that way, but I don't think so. I mean, I think Sue Mattia from BYU, Jordan Morgan from Arizona are also borderline first-round picks. I look at like Blake Fisher from Notre Dame is close to being a plug-and-play right tackle. The dude from Yale, whose name I can't ever say, is a nice project. There's so many of them. Yeah, they're well done.
I couldn't even put Mega G on my board in the first 2 rounds. I don't think, even though
right.
looks the part, but didn't play in the Senior Bowl. We haven't seen any testing numbers. We're talking about Mims. At least we've seen him against big time competition. We've seen his 40 time, and I don't know what to think of Omega G. That's just pure speculation pick on Omega G right now. And he might work out. He had a torn quad, I think it was, something like that kept him out the second half of the year. So that Omega G from Yale, just complete unknown. And his competition level is, I don't know what to do with that guy. I don't see how you could draft him in the first couple of rounds. And even late third round would be a little tough for me at this point until you have a little bit more information on him. And I bet teams will probably want to bring him in for those 30 visits and have a look close up.
Yeah, great call. I mean, he's definitely going to be on a lot of planes. The next
but he's ridiculous. 36-inch arms. He's prototype height, weight. I mean, he can move really well on tape. But again, the level of competition's tough there, and no workout numbers, no Senior Bowl, just nothing else extra work on that usually helps those small school prospects.
I bet his best case scenario is a team like Baltimore or Kansas City at the very end of round 2 and say, you can sit for a bit and we'll figure it out.
One of the teams that didn't get a guy in round 1 comes back around, or round 3 he's still there. I could see him going off the board. I wouldn't take him in the first 2 rounds personally, based on the information we have now.
Yeah.
Next, interior guys. Did some of those tackles that were close make an interior offensive line list? A lot of good guards and centers in this class as well. Next. This episode of Peacock Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney, no matter how your bracket currently looks. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all in the tourney. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets, or draft props, NFL futures, who's going to win the next Super Bowl, Major League Baseball, opening day, all of it at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Interior offensive lineman, I would probably put, of some of the names you talked about there, guys like Jordan Morgan. I think he might go straight to interior because he is sub 33 inch. He's 32 7/8, I believe, arm length. And I just think these days, the more I watch the draft, the more arm length is really important for tackles. And, some guys are just going to go straight inside. And, he's not on your list here, but I think at some point he's probably going to be an interior list than a tackle list. For me personally, really good player. Late run, early 2. You talked about Suamatea as well, who has better chance, in my opinion, to stay a tackle. A lot of these second-round guys, but we're going to see some of these interior guys go off the board in round 1. And you got Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon, the center, big-bodied center. Don't see a lot of these guys anymore, Matt. 328 pounds, but he's a butt kicker. Looked great at the Senior Bowl, even though he was injured. Dominated early, then bowed out of the rest of it. I think he's a first-round guy all day, center 1.
Yeah, real quick on Morgan. I think people, fans, media, make the mistake that, he was a pretty good tackle, kick him into guard, he'll be fine. But I don't know that Morgan deals with Dexter Lawrence well at guard. You know what I mean? His arm length isn't bad for guard, but he's not powerful. He's built like a tackle.
Morgan's an interesting one because I've watched a lot of him, and he's in a lot of 49ers Locked 31. And I'm trying to talk to my 49ers fans, listeners at Lockdown 49ers. Find it daily here on Locked On Podcast. I'm trying to tell them which players the Niners are going to take, who looks good. He can move well. He's really smooth at tackle, but he's not a road grader. So it's not always as simple as just moving a guy in and he's a stud there. I think he is probably a guard, but he's an interesting player because he's just solid, but he doesn't pop anywhere necessarily. And so he just doesn't get me excited. So I'm lower on him than some other folks are at that 31st pick. I think he's more of a second-round guy. And speaking of pop, like Jackson Powers Johnson, his tape pop. Graham Barton from Duke, who's your number 2 interior offensive lineman. He could literally start any 5 positions in the NFL, and I wouldn't be shocked here. I'd like him more inside, though, than at tackle. So I think you have him on the right list here. But his tape is so much more fun to watch than someone like Jordan Morgan. And he pops, and he's on the ground all the time. Sometimes it's pancaking the other guy. So sometimes he's getting pancaked himself. But I think Fuaga and Barton are the 2 most fun offensive linemen in this class to watch. 2 of the most fun players at any position to watch in this class.
Yeah, I love him. And again, Barton's going to fit in somewhere for you. Like I look at a team like Miami or Dallas that needs, or maybe even the Ravens that need multiple starters and just need puzzle pieces that fit in a lot of different spots. and he'll be great. I mean, Powers Johnson's truly hard to find negatives about too. So both these guys are pretty big time prospects, both of round one players to me.
I just did a deep dive on West Virginia's Zach Frazier, who's your number.
I know a lot about this guy
in this class, and former wrestler, and you can see that on tape immediately. He's a leverage king, flat back. He's built low to the ground, a little bit stubby, and yeah, it's the number one thing, and it takes 5 seconds to be like, okay, I see what kind of player this guy is.
Yeah, and West Virginia is less than an hour from where I sit right now, and I've got a good buddy who hosts a West Virginia podcast, and he's a WVU guy, knows Frazier well. He's been on his show. Like, everybody knows him, just raves, and he was an unbelievably good wrestler. Not like a pretty good wrestler. He was an unbelievably good wrestler. But he's a center only, and he's coming off a broken leg, although he's running and doing stuff that he shouldn't be doing at this stage of his recovery. I think he's pretty much a plug-and-play center that, trust me, everyone around here wants Steelers to grab this guy in the second round.
Yeah, second round guy all day. How deep into the second round does he get? Does he sneak into the first round? Is the question with Zach Frazier?
I
don't think he does either. He's a center only. I think he does lack a little bit from a just. I think there's very high floor on him, but I think the ceiling's not quite there for you to draft a center in the first round. Like, you got to be a ridiculous prospect to go in the first round if you're a future center in the NFL.
Center only, yeah.
Cooper Beebe is a name that nobody talks about, Matt, and I'm glad you put him on your list here at number 4 of the interior offensive lineman in this class.
Yeah, I like him quite a bit. I think his combine was a lot better than I thought. I thought he might be kind of more of a wide body, traditional 320 plus guard. He's played a ton, high quality in run and pass protection, fundamentally sound. I mean, this term gets thrown around too much, but he looks like a plug and play guard that probably starts for a long time if he stays healthy.
Who's your number 5 interior offensive lineman in this class, man?
Christian Haynes from UConn, and he's growing on me more and more. We do a second version of these closer to the draft. I probably will move him ahead of Beebe, but they're both really good guard prospects, but not day one players for me.
Who just missed, and who is your favorite sleeper in this class in the interior, man?
I don't think the interior is close to the tackles in terms of quality of just missed guys. You know, I mean, there's a couple I'm kind of looking at, but I've paid actually more attention to the tackles than I have the interior. Mason McCormick from South Dakota State's a guy I'm highly interested in. But a guy I think we just have to bring up is Zach Zinter from Michigan, because it was the Voorhees kid at USC last year that Baltimore drafted, redshirted him all year, didn't play as a rookie because he got hurt late in the process, and he's going to be a starting guard for them this year. But I think Zinter's better. I think he's a borderline first-round guard, but he probably won't play at all his rookie year because of injury.
It's the right team too, because I don't know if he's going to be the feather-footed, wide zone, out on the move type of an offensive lineman. And to be honest with you, with all the reasons that he might fall in the draft, I think you pencil him into the Los Angeles Chargers probably.
Yeah,
Coach Jim Harbaugh there.
I mean, they've had like the best line in college football for like 2 of the last 3 years, or pretty much since the Harbaugh era, and he's their best lineman. You know, I mean, if he was clean, he would go high.
Phenomenal class of interior and especially tackles, and I think even with the tackles that we didn't talk a lot about, and some that we did, like Jordan Morgan's probably in my top 3 or 4 of this interior class if I'm putting him in the interior side of things.
Oh, yeah.
Patrick Paul that we didn't mention out of Houston. He looked good at the Senior Bowl, ran really well for a guy who's 6'7". How many gigantic 6'7" plus offensive linemen are there in this class, by the way? So Patrick Paul is probably,
and they're not fat guys. I mean, there's a lot of them that are just long and lean and look like power forwards, you know?
Chris Paul's brother, I just realized, not the basketball player, but the offensive lineman who was drafted in the NFL, was it last year or the year before? That's Patrick Paul's brother. They come from like Nigerian royalty, by the way.
I didn't know that.
Off field, Patrick Paul's really interesting. Yeah, he's huge, 36-inch arms. I love him in like the late second round area. If you can get him there, if you miss out on one of those tackles, he's a tackle only, not moving into guard. So, I mean, whatever shape you like, you can find a guy at any of the 5 spots for your team's offensive line. So really fun class. A lot of them are going to go high, and maybe even a third of that first round is going to be offensive linemen. It's going to be fun.
One last thing on Paul that I really noticed at the Senior Bowl that scared me a little bit is his arms are so long. When he fires them, it goes out like forever, and then he can't recoil them fast enough, you know, like because it's too hard to bring him into his body.
He bear hugs guys. His
like
college is frustrating. It's like, get your hands inside, dude. And a lot of I noticed hand placement's a big one, and that's the technique you're gonna have to learn a lot more of in the NFL. But they don't call holding the same in college as they do in the NFL. You get those big old paws outside; it's just really obvious, and you're gonna be a flag
with that wingspan, right?
Right. So for someone like Paul, you just got to get those hands inside. You got to get into the chest and not bear hug around the outside. So but he's got all the ability to be a starting tackle in the NFL too. And we're talking about a guy who's not going to go probably. He might sneak into the top 50. I have more of a late second round grade, but
with as many tackles there are in this draft, I think he falls a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
he's not going to be a fit for everyone, but I think he could be a starting tackle. I mean, you can't usually get starting offensive tackles, especially early in their careers, that meet like a height, weight, speed standard. You can't get those guys outside of the first round period, especially the top 50 or even the first couple of rounds. Like you are going to be able to in this class.
No, yeah. I mean, again, paint the barn red.
That is Matt Williamson's rankings of offensive linemen. Let us know what you think at Williamson NFL, at BD Peacock, or drop a comment or a question for our next mailbag on YouTube as well. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen. Matt and I back tomorrow right here. Peacock and Williamson.